Good day, guys. I want you to imagine something for me. I want you to imagine that you're in a sand desert by yourself and it's incredibly hot and you're staggering along and you've been there for quite a long time. You don't know where you are. You're really thirsty. You're almost delirious with thirst and dehydration. And the reason why you're there is because you're looking for gold and diamonds, minerals, so that you can become rich quick. But you haven't managed to find any. You don't know where you are. You think you're going to die soon. Luckily, you see a river flowing ahead. But when you get there, you discover it was a mirage. In fact, it wasn't actually a river at all. It's just a dry riverbed with no water in it. And in one desperate attempt left, you start digging crazily for water in the hope to find some. And while you're doing that, you actually come across a handful of rubies and onyx and diamonds. And you throw them up in the air because you realize that they can't save you, even though that is what you were looking for in the first place. They are so valuable. Right at this moment in time, they aren't going to help you at all. And all you can see are a bunch of birds waiting for you to die so that they can peck at your dead carcass. And that is the gist of the poem Sunstrike, written by South African Douglas Livingstone, who died, if I'm not mistaken, in 1996. A really nice poem. I love this poem, and it appears at first glance to be really simple, and theoretically it is. The message or the idea, the narrative is a simple one, but it's actually a lot more complex when you really analyze it. So let's have a look at the poem. Poem's first stanza begins as this: a solitary prospector, staggered, locked in a vision of slate hills that capered on the molten horizon. Second stanza: waterless, he came to where a river had run, now a band flowing only in ripples of white, unquenchable sand. Cursing, he dug sporadically, here, as deep as his arm, and sat quite still, eyes thirstily incredulous on his palm. A handful of alluvial diamonds leered back, and more, mixed in the scar, glinted globules of rubies, emeralds, onyx. And then he was swimming in fire and drinking, splashing hot halos of glittering drops at the choir of assembled carrion crows. And that is the poem. So now I'm going to shift to the visualizer so we can have a look and see what is happening in this poem. I'm going to analyze it for you, and I'm going to try my best not to beat around the bush too much, because I know you guys don't want to watch these long videos, but at the same time it's really important that I explain everything that I need to explain. Alright, first of all, the title. Let's look at the title, Sunstrike. Now technically there's no word such as sunstrike. We get sunstroke when you've had too much sun and you become ill. And we get striking it rich, in other words, finding something very valuable, becoming rich quick. Alright? So sunstrike is what we call a coined word. In other words, it's a word that has been made up by using or combining two or more words. So we're combining sunstroke and we're combining striking, like striking it rich. Now you'll see here that there was a bit of a typix mark here. I originally wrote neologism. Now a neologism is a new word, but then I decided it's actually not a neologism, considering that, well, a new word, a neologism, is a word that's introduced into the language and becomes officially recognized, but sunstrike is not something that you're ever going to use again. So it isn't really a new word, it was just a created word. So it is a coined word. But it's also a pun in that it's a play on the words sunstroke and striking it rich. Okay, so if we had to ask what figure of speech is the title, you would say it's a pun. Alright, a solitary prospector. Solitary means alone, like you can be put in solitary confinement. Okay, so he's by himself. Also, indefinite article shows just one. Prospector, a solitary prospector also. Prospector is someone who looks for gold or minerals, or any form of minerals. It doesn't have to be gold, it's usually gold, but any valuable mineral. Staggered, he's tired, he's weak, alright, because he's so dehydrated, because he's been out here in the desert for so long. locked in a vision of slate hills that capered on the molten horizon. You'll notice I've got a lot of things written down here. That's just to help you so that if you've got your own copy, you can make notes as well. Locked. If something is locked, it means you can't access it. So it's almost like he can't escape the situation which he's found himself in. And he's locked in a vision. And I've said here he's prisoner of thirst. Right? It's like he's stuck in a vision. Like the only thing that he can possibly think of is finding water. But he's also almost delirious. If you're delirious, it means like you're incoherent, you're just kind of going mad, all right? Because he's so thirsty. Anybody who's gone, I would say, a day without anything to drink, you will actually find that your mental capacity is far reduced. You may have experienced that. So we're talking about days here. All right. He's locked in this vision of slate hills. Now, slate is a type of metamorphic rock. It's grey in color. But now the hills that he's looking at, of sand, of course, are not actually made of slate. All right. So that's a metaphor because the hills are being compared to that of slate. But if you look at slate, it's not only but grey, but it's like quite stepped. All right. So he's calling them slate hills that capered. Now, to caper means to do a little dance. All right. So on the one hand, caper, yes, kind of up and down in that the hills are flowing like sand dunes up and down. But more than that is that it's as if the hills are dancing at him. It's as if nature is laughing at him. And the reason for that is because he's come here to try and take from nature. He's trying to take diamonds and minerals and things like that. Right? And nature is now saying, if you want to be greedy, now we're going to laugh at you. Look who's the sucker now. All right. So they're almost like they're mocking him. So the hills are capering on the molten horizon. Use of this word molten, obviously like molten rock. Okay, that comes out of, that's within a volcano, okay, hot, so I've got their heat imagery, all right, but also if you look at lava when it flows out of a volcano, you can see that it's kind of shaky, it's really, really hot. So now if you look on the horizon or you look on the road when it's really hot, you get that kind of little wave that like shakes up and down on the road or on the horizon. Okay, it's like the air, it's like you can see the heat coming off the surface. All right, so that is basically what the horizon looks like because it's so hot, it's like shaking. Okay, and that is also a metaphor because the horizon isn't actually molten rock, but we're comparing the heat haze that we call it to that of being molten. And of course the heat imagery of the fact that it is so hot as well. So you get the idea of that there's a prospector, somebody who's looking for valuable minerals. He's alone, he's tired, he's weak, he's like locked in a vision. In other words, all he can think about is finding something to drink. And he's on these slate hills that capered on the molten horizon. He can see almost like a mirage. He thinks he can see water, you see, because that heat haze looks like water, especially in a desert. You know, you think you see something. You've heard of a mirage, an image, and you think you can see water, but it's not actually. But anyway, he's going towards it because he's so dehydrated he needs something to drink. All right, so he thinks he sees water. Okay, next stanza. When he gets there, he finds that the river had run there anymore, and now it's waterless. There's no water in the river. But this waterless is what we call a transferred epithet. That is a figure of speech. What a transferred epithet means is when an adjective describes the wrong noun. So it looks like it's describing a noun, but it's actually describing the other one. So look here, waterless. He came to where a river had run. So is it the river that is waterless, or is it he that is waterless? It's the river that's waterless. The river has no water in it. But waterless he. It sounds as if here's the pronoun and waterless is describing the pronoun. But that's not actually the case. Yes, the poet has done it cleverly because he wants to show that, yes, the solitary prospector does in fact have no water. He is waterless. But while he's doing that, he's cleverly indicating to us that it's in fact the river that has no water. A river had run. I've said past tense, therefore the river doesn't flow anymore. Now all it is a band flowing only in ripples of white unquenchable sand. So all that's there now is sand. But by using the word flowing, waterless and ripples, flowing ripples, that gives us the image as the reader that in fact there is water there, because water flows and it creates ripples. Okay, so by using the diction, word use, flowing, ripples, quenchable, it gives us the impression that there should be water there, but there's not. Now, unquenchable sand is also a transferred epithet, because it's not the sand that cannot be quenched. It's actually his thirst that cannot be quenched. Now, if you quench your thirst, it means that you get rid of your thirst. You drink enough to get rid of it, right? But he's saying that the sand, you can't drink sand. You know, sand isn't going to quench your thirst, so it's unquenchable. But it's not actually the sand that's unquenchable. It's his thirst that's unquenchable. So again, transferred epithet. Okay, so waterless is one, and unquenchable sand is one. All right. Next stanza. Cursing. Now he's angry because not only is he upset that he hasn't found water, but he's so tired and exhausted. He needs water. And he's walked all this way, very slowly, no doubt, to get there, and there's no water. Okay. So in an attempt, he digs sporadically, here, as deep as his arm. Sporadically means inconsistently, randomly, a bit here, a bit there, a bit here, a bit here. Okay. Now remember, he's in a riverbed, except there's no river there anymore. But he's thinking maybe that the water table is, dropped below the surface of the riverbed, and there's water underground. So he's starting to dig here and here. The repetition of here, here means he dug here, and then he dug here, and dug here, here, randomly. Okay, as deep as his arm. Not really a simile, even though it's got as and as. Not really a simile. It's just trying to explain to us that that's as far as he could dig. Only up to his arm, so under his armpit. And then sat quite still, eyes thirstily incredulous on his palm. Again, the word thirstily, clever use of the word thirstily, because he's obviously thirsty, he needs water. But in actual fact, incredulous means in complete disbelief. You're absolutely shocked to find something. So what do you think he's found? A handful of alluvial diamonds leered back, and more. Alright, so now here we have, in his whole hand, he's got alluvial, which refers to anything that's got to do with a river. Okay, so you get alluvial erosion. Alright, so these diamonds were in the riverbed, as we know. So alluvial diamonds leered back. Now, if you leer back, you like scare somebody. You're mocking him by their gaze. They're kind of like laughing at you, like, look at me, here I am, but you can't have me because it's not going to help, kind of thing. So he's saying here he's found these diamonds, and the diamonds are leering back at him. So that's the ability of the diamonds to leer back. So that's personification. But not only diamonds, there's more. Mixed in the scar, glinted globules of rubies, emeralds, onyx. Rubies are red, emeralds green, onyx black. Now, the argument is that are they not just all diamonds, and that the fact that they're shining in the sun make them look like different things? Or maybe he's so like delirious with thirst, he's actually kind of hallucinating. So maybe he's actually seeing things that aren't exactly there. But no doubt he's found diamonds of some sort. He's found valuable minerals. Alright? And it's got the word there, scar. Clever use of the word scar there. So earlier on, we saw that the hills were kind of mocking him, laughing at him. And now we have a scar. And I've put there a hole, obviously because he's dug into the ground, he's made a hole. And so it's like a wound, scar, that you get from a cut. But also that man wounds the earth. We're always destroying nature. So it's almost like we leave all these scars on earth. Wherever we destroy the landscape and the environment, we leave a mark, we leave a scar. Right, so clever use of the word scar there. Some alliteration here, glinted globules. Glinted just means that they're shining. Globules, little stones of rubies, emeralds, onyx. Alright. Of course, the irony is the fact that now he's found what he was originally looking for, but it's not going to help him. It's not actually what he wants anymore, is it? Because he just wants water. And then he was swimming in fire and drinking, splashing hot halos of glittering drops at the choir of assembled carrion crows. All right. Very, very clever use of water imagery here. Like we had earlier in flowing and ripples, we've got now swimming, drinking, splashing, drops. Those are all things associated with water. And there is no water at this point. Now this is a metaphor, swimming in fire, because it's not actual fire that he's swimming in. But what he's saying is that he's now taking these little stones and he's throwing them up into the air. He's throwing them above his head out of frustration, out of anger. All right? And together with the things that he's throwing up is sand. You know, with the diamonds, he's throwing sand up. And when you throw something above your head, it kind of shoots up and kind of does an arc, almost like a circle above your head when you throw it up before it falls down again. And a halo is that little round circle that an angel gets above their heads. All right. So use of the word halo there, showing that he's throwing these things up above his head. Also, halo is quite a holy thing, linking with angels, linking with the fact that he's going to die soon. All right. Glittering means they're just shining in the sunlight. Drops at the choir of assembled carrion crows. Carrion refers to rotting. Crows, now they could be actual crows, any bird of prey really, but they could be vultures as well. Vultures would be more fitting in terms of waiting for you to die, kind of stereotypical of that. So alliteration there of the C and the C sound, carrion crows. And why do we call them a choir of assembled carrion crows? Remember, the poet never uses a word just for fun. You know, there is something that he wants to say when he uses a word. And this is a fantastic example, this poem, of that use of diction. Right, so choir, I've said it's a choir because, number one, they're noisy, they make a sound. Number two, they're uniform in color, they all look the same. And number three, that's a large group. There's a large group of them. Okay, so there are all these birds waiting there. But, again, going with the mockery kind of theme, they're actually don't sound nice at all. You know, a set of crows is not a very nice sound. It's actually quite disturbing. So while a choir sounds very nice to the ears, it's almost as if nature is saying, but we're like a choir, but we sound damn ugly. All right. And they assemble there, they're ready, they're waiting for him to die. They can recognize that he's going to die soon. Lastly, I've said here the overall message is that the prospector knows he is going to die. He found exactly what he was looking for originally, but now all he wants is water and he can't find that. And he can't believe that he's looking at them incredulously on his palm. He's in complete disbelief, right? And because although these things are very valuable, the minerals aren't going to help him at all. He's going to die surrounded by these minerals. Lastly, the theme, man is greedy, particularly for materialistic items in life. We all want to have wealth. We all want to own things, have possessions, nice car, nice house, nice watch, nice clothes, etc. But when it comes to water, something that we require to survive, things like that we take for granted. And it's not just water, obviously, but water is what the poet has made use of here. The other theme is that life or health is more important than wealth or status. So being happy, being healthy is far more important than how much wealth you have. And you know, people say that money can't buy you happiness. They're very, very accurate. Money cannot buy you happiness. Sure, it's easier to be happy when you have money, but there's definitely no direct link between money equals happiness. Does not work that way.